You know, in 2006, there were elections in Gaza, and Hamas won control in that election by beating the Palestinian Authority. So why did the people in Gaza vote for Hamas over the PA?
Mixing religion and politics is a very dangerous thing. It's a very toxic brew. And when you use the name of God to validate your political strategy, then you could fool so many people. It's a religious community, majority of Muslims. And Hamas know how to play the game. They don't separate mosque and state. The Palestinian Authority, on the other hand, has been a corrupted organization. They don't care for the people. They're drunk most of the time. And Hamas leaders show discipline to a certain degree.
Compared to what they saw in PA, they had lived under PA, and they said, we don't want that. But right after that election, the Hamas, members of Hamas were killing the leaders of PA.
Yes. Not only the leaders of the PA, they killed even the other Islamic rival movements, like the Salafi jihadists. I remember one of the incidents, some 50 Salafi jihadists were inside the mosque begging Hamas forces not to shoot, say, by the name of Allah, this is the house of Allah, this house of God, house of worship. Please have mercy on us. And Hamas executed all of them inside the mosque. That's not only a rival from outside, that's the arrival within the Islamic jihadist mindset. So
I never heard of that.
Yes, because most people don't.
So the Salafists themselves, not only were they are they Muslims, but they were also radicals too.
Yes, because this is how, and the difference between them and Hamas is a very small difference. This is how much Hamas does not tolerate anyone who think outside of their box. And any of their leaders, if they would oppose them, they would be politically assassinated or possibly physically.
Truly assassinated.
Wow. So why do you think why am I being so firm in my stand when it comes to Hamas, that there is no way to tolerate them? Because I know that they are a black hole that cannot be satisfied, and they will always find a reason to justify their violence. Not only against the Jewish people. The Jewish people are just caught up in this Arab conflict, Muslim conflict, Shia-Sunni conflict. It's external. Has Israel only
in the wrong place?
In the wrong place and take the blame every time. But the truth, it's not an Arab-Jewish conflict as much as it's Islamic Arab conflict. The vast majority of Gazans agree with Hamas. But this doesn't mean that all of them agree with Hamas.
No, I understand.
Right? But
I understand.
What I am certain about, that the vast majority of Gazans are against Israel.
Are against Israel, for sure, right.
I don't want to say everybody.
Okay, no.
So it really
but if
doesn't.
You're against Israel, it means you got to kill the Jews. I mean, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Means free of Jews. That's what it means.
You know what? Something that the public don't know. That most of the atrocities that happened on October 7 was not only committed by Hamas. Hamas came first, and Hamas operatives were there. But then the waves of civilians, those are the ones, most of the rape and kidnapping that happened, it was on the hands of what so-called civilians.
In Gaza, yeah.
Yes. And we saw how also what so-called civilians treated the hostages on their way into Gaza, even the corpses. We're talking about a brutal culture, and I'm not afraid to say this. You know, many the reason I try to take the gentle approach, because many people might think that I'm blinded by hatred, but they don't understand. If I personally go to Gaza, there is no one in Gaza that would agree that I should live. They all want me dead. They all agree on that. So It's not only they want all the Jews dead, they also want me dead. And I say, why? Because I opposed Hamas strategy of targeting civilians indiscriminately that give you the right to sentence me to death. So why the Gazans want me dead? It's not only they want the Jewish people dead. And is this a solution? So we're talking about death culture. And when a society agree on evil, where raping and beheading of civilians become a form of legitimate resistance.
Not just resistance, but
glorified.
Glorification.
Yes. Now, a society like this has fallen from grace. Because how can you now, that's it. How can you rationalize with them?
Yeah. And how can you rebuild it? You can't. So if Gazans feel this way, and we do, we see it in the polls, and we saw how they invaded Israel, as you said, not just Hamas, but the civilians, and what terrorism they performed. If that's the case, when Israel wins, and it's going to win, it's going to wipe out Hamas, what should it do after that with Gaza? What are you going to do with all these people who are involved? They're implicit. They were participants in this horror. What should be done? Given there are 49 countries in the world that are Muslim majority countries in the world, and not one of them is offering or has offered to accept Gazan refugees. They know better, right?
Listen, it's even Israel, without doing this, has been accused of ethnic cleansing and the displacement of Palestinians, which there is no such thing as Palestinian. There are Arabs and other actually groups. Now it looks like we are dealing with a community or a society. Sub-society, subdivided with subdivisions for like eternity. They are all conflicted without leadership that have failed terribly of coexisting with the Jewish neighbors. Even though Israel has no problem coexisting with Arabs. Israel has 2 million Arabs as citizens, with equal rights. Those who shall say no equals, no, they have equal rights. But not every citizen is showing equal responsibility. This is why they get in trouble. But what to do with people who cannot coexist? We have like now reached a point where I'm afraid that separation is a necessity. Call it apartheid, call it whatever you want to call it. I think it's just torture to have two cultures that they cannot coexist with each other, especially when one of them is insisting on violence.
And insisting on the death of the other, right? There's no middle ground. If somebody wants to kill you and you want to live, there's no middle ground.
Annihilation. But then also, if you want to kill, killing is something. How can you explain the raping? Killing is a capital crime, but raping is beyond. So when we are dealing with a rape culture, a death cult, and yes, I am generalizing because this is the general vibe of that society.
That's correct.
So what to do?
Has to be destroyed, in my view.
People, and now people who don't understand that culture come from the outside and say, we're
all the same. You just need a good job and good education.
The two-state solution with economy, etc. This is going to lead to prosperity, and there is going to be peace. Nobody can guarantee that. We're talking about two different people, the opposite. And one of them is depending on the destruction of the other. So my personal opinion, the confederation between Egypt and Gaza, between parts of the West Bank, what's so-called the West Bank, Judea and Samaria. That's like the most populated areas, and Jordan. Not fully Jordan. So I would give the authority to the tribes, to the major tribes.
Mm-hmm.
I would have them under the authority of the Jordanian intelligence that manage them, but from outside, not from inside. And I would have a police keeping force dressed in white, okay, without big guns, if necessary, just sticks to keep the order inside those communities. But the superior hand is to the Israeli security that is monitoring everything. The ones with serious security violation must be deported to the Jordanian desert in a high security prison. And they would be locked up until they realize that they are going nowhere. Otherwise, the cycle of violence will continue for eternity. If you ask me, some of the people of the West Bank or Gaza also to have the option of compensation and relocation. So it's their own will. Here is a package, and here is the country, 2, 3, 20 countries as an option. You have the freedom to move out if you don't like this arrangement. We don't need another state.
That's right.
We don't need another state, especially we don't know who's going to rule it.
Right. It'll be.
Is it going to be the jihadist, the Islamist, the communist, the devil? Mm-hmm. It's something that is not worth risking anymore. Those who decide to stay in their homes, nobody's coming to take their homes. They can be considered just like the rest of the Arabs in that region, but they need to respect Israel's right to exist. They need to respect the laws, and they need to make sure that there is no children indoctrination, that they are taking care of their own responsibility towards themselves and towards the rest of the society. Otherwise, deportation. You don't belong here. Out of the fence for eternity. You and your family also.
Out. There is a problem, though.
What
no one wants them. Deport them to where?
I tell you something. Instead of giving the billions of dollars to UNRWA that they've been spending the money on their stupid entourage.
Right.
No, not schools. You know where most of the money that the UNRWA is spent on the foreign workers who spend the money on their offices and their first-class airfare, and I don't want to say their prostitution. And maybe drug habits. This is where most of the money is going. Most of the money is not going into actually the territory. Just think about the budget for the operation outside. Those who take the high and big salary, sitting in the big office.
This is the United Nations Relief Workers Association,
right,
UNRWA, something like that. Yeah.
So anyway, instead of having like all this big budget going in the wrong hands, let's divide this budget and create those packages and have host country. Because if I was a host country, if I had to take a broke refugee, what to do with the refugee? They're now dependent on my economy.
Right.
But if the refugee come to me with a package, financial package, then it's a different story. I can easily take them into my economy, and they would be an asset. And superpowers can always convince countries of that level, of similar culture.
Sure,
of like,
maybe in Africa even, South America.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But none of the Arab countries have offered to take a single refugee. As a matter of fact, not only not offered, but Egypt has refused to let them into the Sinai.